All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Colleen. Welcome to Start the Week Without Spencer today. Spencer Doman, our director, is currently in India, seeing families there with our team. Um, and one of the many places that our staff travel to see families. But I'm privileged today to be with you. It'll just be me, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions about appointments or anything else that you can think of with regard to, general questions about the Doman method. As I said, my name is Colleen. For those of you who join us regularly, you do know me. I am the Director of Representatives for Doman International. I am also privileged to have grown up with the Doman method. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. But I am Director of Representatives, which means that I oversee our representatives around the world, as well as being responsible for bringing families onto our program. My demographic is all of English speaking everywhere, with the exception of India. Um, but it really is a great privilege to tell families about the Doman method because it's been such a huge part of my life for pretty much as long as I can remember. So I'll give you a little background about me. Um, my parents took a course with Glenn Doman when I was 4 years old. And this course was intended for the parents of neurotypical children. It was about early development. So my parents were intrigued by the idea of teaching me and my brothers and my sister to read at a young age, to enjoy math, music, physical development. They really didn't know quite what they were getting into when they began the course, but they were very quickly you know, convinced that this was a compelling vision for not only improving our overall development, but also for bonding as a family. And my mother was a little overrun. She and my father were very young, and they had four of us within 5 years. So when this course came along, it also brought some much needed structure. My mother is a very organized woman. She was a nurse, but at the time that they took this course, she really was trying to figure out, how to organize our life, our home life, sort of in a way that felt cohesive and that gave us all good direction without being too rigid, because you can't be that rigid when you have small children. But to give us all a sense of purpose and focus. And that is exactly what it did. And it also really opened the world to a tremendous amount of fun and enjoyment. So that was the Well Kid program. However, my my mother realized in learning about brain development and neuroplasticity and how children should be developing, if everything is as it should be, she realized that my sister was actually struggling with delays that were neurological in nature. And if she had not taken the course with Glenn, there's no way she would have known at such a young age that these issues that my sister was dealing with were based in her brain. My sister was hypersensitive to certain sounds. She was hypersensitive to certain textures. She was a little clumsy. um, she was 3 years old. So a lot of these things my parents could explain away, or relatives, loving relatives could also explain away. She was also not really speaking all that much. Now, my parents were told by our doctor and by relatives, like, oh, it's normal. Her older sister talks for her. We were very close in age. We were within a year of each other. And I said, yeah, that's a typical thing. That happens. But again, once my mother had the information that Glenn taught, her eyes were very much opened, and she realized that whether or not my sister might grow out of these challenges, it would be irresponsible of her to ignore them. And now that she had the information, so she commenced a program, a very organized program of neurological stimulation. And because we were all so close in age, she did the program with all of us, and we all benefited tremendously. Within a year, my sister's issues were completely gone. So, I mean, she has no recollection of that, period of time. And she's gone on to do some pretty exciting things and has her own business, and an architect by training, by education. So certainly there's, a lot to be said for that. At the same time, and this was very interesting as well, my grandfather, my mother's father, was in a catastrophic car accident. So here you have two examples within the same family of the kinds of injuries that people can have that can be benefited by the Doman method. My sister's issues were from birth, and who knows why. We all have the potential for little challenges. So that was just something in her early development that was identified. With my grandfather, he had been a very healthy, fit man, and he was in this terrible car accident. Coming home one night, swerved to avoid a deer, which is something that happens a lot in Pennsylvania, and hit a tree. And he was in a coma. He was paralyzed on the right side. So he did sustain nerve damage as well as his brain injury. But again, because my parents had the information under their belt about neurological development, because they had already completed the training course with Glenn, they knew that my grandfather's greatest hope was in getting neurological stimulation as quickly as possible, as early as possible. So they really fought with the doctors. They did a program of coma arousal to get him out of that coma. Now, a lot of these things I think are very well understood now and are much more commonly done. But when my grandfather had his accident in 1980, it was usual to keep the coma patient in a darkened, quiet room. The idea was you didn't want to cause any distress. A lot of patients in a coma do have seizures and other things that are very scary. Now, the staff of Doman International understand why those things occur, and they all have to do with the brain. But in that time, sedation, even though he was out of it, sedation was typical, keeping things quiet. But my parents knew that was not the way to get somebody out of coma. So they went about doing everything they could to wake him up, which was successful. They successfully avoided getting him on certain drugs that were not necessary, and then once he was awake and capable of being moved, they found a rehabilitation center in Colorado. So we live in Pennsylvania. For those of you who don't live in the United States, we're on the East Coast of the United States. Colorado is, out west with the Rocky Mountains. So it's a plane ride. But my grandfather did still need nursing care. So they needed to be in a place where he could have that. Also, my mother was pregnant with my youngest brother. There were three of us, little, and so she definitely needed the help. But they could not find a rehabilitation center until they found this one in Colorado that would allow them to carry out the program that my grandfather needed, the Doman Method program. So we went out to Colorado. My memory is hazy. I think we were out there for several months, and he had a full program of neurological stimulation, a Doman Method program. So he was on the floor. He was learning to crawl again, learning to creep again, all of these things because he was immobile. Now, some of that was the paralysis, but a lot more of it was, his neurological issue. He was beginning to speak again, all of these different things coming into play. But if they had not had a comprehensive understanding of what he needed, then I'm certain he would not have recovered to the extent that he did. And he really did. He was able to, within a year, he was able to live on his own again. He moved back into his own house. My grandmother had died several years before that, so he was alone. But he moved back into his home. He drove a car. He picked up consulting. Again, he had owned his own business. My father was one of his partners. And so my grandfather went back to work as a consultant for his firm. And it was, it gave him meaning again, purpose. And he used to say all the time, I can remember this so well. He said, before the accident, I was very successful, but after the accident, I I learned how to be grateful. So, and he used to say all the time, I'm so grateful that, your parents didn't give up on me. I'm so grateful that they knew what they knew so that they could give me a second shot at life. He also used to say, because of the paralysis on his right side, he walked with a cane and he did walk slowly. But he used to say, "Oh, I'm slow, but I get there," which I think is a good attitude to have sometimes, especially right now in our rush culture. Um, so all of these things are just to let you know why I have such a passion for explaining the Doman method to families, because I've seen how effective it is. And then we continue to be influenced by the Doman method for many, many years, my whole upbringing. So, and my daughter, who's 21 now, I raised with the Doman method program, all of the early learning, early stimulation things. I found it incredibly empowering as a mother. And she had some little challenges as well that cropped up when she was small, and we were able to address them effectively. So it's nobody is immune, but when you have the information, you can make choices and you can adjust things in your life that can be beneficial to your kid in a way that doesn't feel as if you're just throwing things at the wall, to see what sticks. It can really be very directed and focused. And I think for parents, it's very helpful to have a focus, because having a small child can already be so chaotic. And obviously, when your child has special needs, you are looking for answers, and everybody out there purports to have answers. And one of the benefits of, I think, having the longevity that our team has, 70 years now, is that they have seen things come and go. They've seen, new techniques, new ideas, and they've taken on anything and everything that can be beneficial to our families within the framework of what we already understand, about how the brain develops, how we can stimulate the brain to get good results. But yeah, there's so many different things coming along. And oftentimes parents will ask, "Oh, what about this new thing?" And our team can then. And Spencer addressed some things a couple of weeks ago that had come up recently, and these are things that our staff have viewpoints on, because it's not the first time they've come up. So I think that's something to benefit parents, like to know that you do have a team who's very knowledgeable themselves, but also has access to many years of experience with a variety of things. So we can really sort through with you what things might be beneficial and what things might be a little bit of a waste of time potentially. Now, I mean, every kid is different. So something else that is important to know about the Doman method and working with Doman International is our families are the experts in their kids, and we never stop espousing that. We are always emphasizing that you parents are the expert in your child. So if you hear about something and you feel strongly about giving it a try, um, we definitely support that. We can give you perspective if we have it, obviously, but we would never say, "Oh, don't do that," if you're really fired up about it, because it is possible. Individual kids react to things differently. So, and sometimes we've had families bring things to us that we didn't know about before, that were very new and have enhanced the program that we offer. So it's a very good thing to be open-minded, and our staff are very open-minded, but with a firm grounding in the work that we've been doing for all these years, so they know. So all of that background, I'm here really to talk to you about what the Doman Method appointment involves, how you can get started with us. So again, for those of you who have been with us before, you already know my name is Colleen Hudson. I am Director of Representatives. And what Doman International does primarily is we design customized programs for kids with special needs. We teach those programs to families directly, and then we support families as they are carrying out those programs at home. And that's actually been the model of the Doman Method since the very beginning. When Glenn began his clinic, well, in the very, very, very beginning, he did have an inpatient facility. He saw adults as well, then started working more with children, and realized very quickly, as a lot of you will know, that there was so much more that parents could do if he taught them himself to go home and carry out the plan than to have their child in the clinic. So that was a very early shift, but that has been our model since, pretty much for probably 68, 69 years of the 70, for all of that time. And it is, in our opinion, it is the most successful way to carry out a Doman Method program, is the staff training families exactly what to do for their individual child, and then supporting you at home as you're doing your program. So for families who are looking at the Doman Method for the first time, we have our books. Our books are a tremendous wealth of information. We know that families have used what they've learned in those books to do a program at home for their kid without even seeing us, and that's great. We don't hold anything back. We also have, of course, this session every Monday, so typically we would have Spencer here to answer more nitty-gritty questions. By the way, if you are here and you're like, oh, it's just Colleen, not Spencer, please put your questions in the comments box, because if I can answer it, sometimes I can. If I can answer the question, I will very happily do so. If I can't answer the question, I will be honest with you and say I'm going to have to get that answer from Spencer or from one of our other staff, and I can get back to you, though. So if you are joining us on Facebook or on Instagram, or actually YouTube too, I guess, any of those platforms, you can put your question in the comments, but then you can also, if you want, send me a direct message, and I will get back to you directly with the answer to your question if I'm not able to answer it, okay? So please do not hesitate. Don't hold back just because Spencer isn't here. So for families who are thinking maybe we want a customized program designed exactly for our kid, the process is pretty simple. We book appointments most weeks of the month. All of our appointments, when you come to see us in Philadelphia, are 3 days long. For families who are in other areas or who maybe cannot travel, we do offer the remote appointment. That is scheduled a little differently because we don't want you sitting at the computer for 3 days. And for families who are coming to see us in Italy, at our campus in Tuscany, those appointments are also 3 days long. But for families who are seeing us perhaps in Dubai or in India, right now where they are, or in California, we have appointments coming up in December for families who are seeing us in, where else? Serbia. We do a 1-day evaluation, and then so you'll see the staff live for that evaluation, and then after that they schedule remote coaching with you. So the Doman Method is comprised of physical activities, sensory activities, cognitive activities, respiratory, and nutritional. So all of these areas are what, taken together as a whole, are what comprise the Doman Method. Okay. It's interesting because I often have families ask me, well, can I just do this, the cognitive program, or could I just try the physical program? Um, Obviously, yes. The answer is yes, you can, but that would really be something that you would do at home using the books. Um, the Doman Method is a holistic program. So when families want an appointment with our team is going to design a whole program. And the reason that we know that that's the most effective way for us to work is that every child's every kid is a whole, right? Is a collection of all of their. I mean, we're not just eyes or legs or brain, even like just we're not just our brain either. I mean, the brain controls everything. It's the command center of the body. But um, sometimes families will come to us and say, my kid has one very specific issue, and I really just want a treatment for that one very specific issue. Um, and our team will say, respect for that. We get you. But in our experience, that one issue is almost certainly related to several different areas of their development. And the only way that we can know that we are covering every base is by conducting the full evaluation. And from that evaluation, by uncovering the things that need to be addressed, then we can put together a specific plan for your kid. So that's why when you come to work with us, you are going to get a full program, especially the first time around. We have worked with children who over time don't have a full program anymore. Maybe they're just down to one or two areas that they need to focus on, and that's fine. That's great. The Doman Method is designed. All of our programs are designed to be self-eliminating. Our goal is you do this program for as long as is needed, but we are working toward the goal of you don't need that particular program anymore. Because that's progress, right? I mean, we grow up. We want our kids to grow up and to move forward in their development. So when families come to work with us, we do a complete program to make sure that nothing is missed. So that does include labs. We ask families to have blood work done, urine samples, stool samples, because the biochemistry of each child is individual. And we know that if we can get that right, then that can go a long way also towards supporting their neurological development. And it's interesting, I don't think any of these things is new anymore to families, these concepts. And that definitely did not used to be the case. When Glenn gave lectures, I can still remember now attending lectures 20, 30 years ago. And the whole beginning of the program was explaining these concepts to families in a way. Now, parents get it. Parents get it quickly. You all understand where we're coming from. And he always said that parents get what we're talking about much faster than anybody else. Certainly faster than most neurosurgeons, believe it or not. And not taking anything away from doctors or scientists or anything at all, but definitely in those days there was a lot more rigidity of thought, and so things that Glenn would say sounded perhaps simplistic to some people, and they'd say, well, it can't possibly be that straightforward. And Glenn would say, well, allow me to show you why it is. It's not simple, and it's not easy, but it is a pretty straightforward thing that we can get answers, for kids, from doing this very straightforward evaluation that was based on a lot of research, right, on their part. So anyway, when families come to work with us, we know that you're going to get it very quickly. But I think all of these concepts now are very familiar to parents. The idea that nutrition, supports their kids' development, that judicious use of supplements might be necessary, all of those things. But the benefit for families who are coming for the appointment with us is that we take everything piece by piece for your child specifically. And those labs and things help us with that as well, so that we're really getting to the heart of what your kid needs, um, not just a random, random child with fill in the diagnosis. So once a family plans to take an appointment with us, and we do like to schedule 6 to 8 weeks in advance. That's the sweet spot, because we have a lot of information to share with you in the lead up to that appointment date. So, in the 6 to 8 weeks before the date of your appointment, we give you access to our lectures that expand on the information that's in the books. You have staff to ask questions of, so you can start getting things in order at home, which can be very useful. And we really want, and of course you have to have your labs done and all of that good stuff. So that by the time you do meet the staff in person or online, you are completely, you know, educated in terms of our viewpoint, our vocabulary, and you really feel, and you're starting to get to know people too, so you feel very supported, and that's important to us. Our team is not huge, so you do get to know the staff quite well as individuals. So then you come for your appointment, and the initial thing that we do is that evaluation. The evaluation is a functional evaluation. So for those of you who have read the books, you'll be familiar with our developmental profile, that rainbow chart. That document is such an incredible resource. It is a spectacular accomplishment for the world, I think, because it really does break down how human development progresses. What are the key things, above and beyond the milestones that we know from the pediatrician's office? What are those key elements of development that show clearly which areas of the brain are developing appropriately and which areas of the brain need the most attention and stimulation? And then we just build it up, in blocks. You have to have a solid foundation in order to progress. Sometimes parents will say, oh, my child, for instance, has been doing a particular kind of therapy and we saw great results in the beginning, but we've now hit a wall, right? We thought it was a plateau, but the plateau's gone on too long, and so now we really feel that we're stuck. Nothing can be more frustrating than that, because when you think you've found the thing and things were going well, and then you're not anymore. So for families in that situation, the developmental profile will uncover what is it in my child's development that is not fully formed, that is almost certainly causing that block. And so we can give you that answer, which is really empowering for families, and obviously helpful for your kid, because that's the drawback, I think, of a lot of the conventional therapies, is without the kind of thorough evaluation that goes all the way back to the newborn level, it's so easy to miss little things. And without a full understanding of which particular functions are key, it's easy to say, well, that one's not so important. Again, though, I really feel like this information has very much started to seep into the mainstream consciousness. I think that people understand better and better the importance of crawling on the belly, of creeping on all fours. They might not understand why these things are key, but if they say, yeah, my kid didn't really do that, and I'm talking about obviously children who are already walking. For kids who aren't yet walking, we know that this is key, but we also know for a child who can't move yet, who isn't mobile at all, right? Maybe they can move their arms and legs on their own. Maybe they can't. We work with children all through the spectrum of that kind of mobility development. We have seen children who were 10, 12 years old and, completely immobile. So basically they sit in a chair or they lay on their back, and that's all they can do. And we've helped children in that situation to become mobile, uh, you know, step by step by, again, starting with a really thorough evaluation. So it's not a miracle, but in a way it's miraculous the way that the brain uh, develops and how we can go in and stimulate directly so that kids can start to reach that level of function. So anyway, I love the developmental profile. I think it's just absolutely incredible, and every single parent should be taught it before their kid is born. Actually, that's my personal feeling. I had dinner with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and he's familiar with the Doman Method, and we were talking about it, and he said, "Oh, you're really a true believer." And I said, "That's such a funny thing to say." I guess, yeah, obviously, um, but it's not a belief born out of a lack of evidence. It's a belief, born out of years and years of seeing results, results, results for families, and parents having hope where they didn't have hope before, and children achieving things that they were told they would never be able to do. So, yeah, I guess I guess that leads to being a true believer. Um, so, at any rate, once you've had your evaluation, the staff then sit down with you and they go over the results of the evaluation on the developmental profile, block by block. They explain everything to you. And then they talk to you about, your family dynamics. Like, what is your day-to-day schedule like? What challenges are you facing in terms of your schedule? Because and what are your biggest hopes and dreams for your child? Because these things are very important to us. First of all, the staff want to design a program that is going to meet all of your child's needs with respect to your family's needs as well. Um, we don't live in a vacuum. You don't live in a vacuum. Life needs to be lived, and things have to be done. So we recognize that every family's unique situation has to be accounted for when we're designing a program, so that you don't feel like you're pushing a rock, every single day. And our staff are very interested in practical solutions for you. So, um, if you work full time, if your child is in school, all of these things can be accounted for with the program. I want to encourage you all, again, please post questions. I'm watching the comments, so if you have any questions, again, that I can't answer, then I will get back to you as quickly as possible with answers from the staff. And if I can answer it, I will. So we want to be practical, and we want to make sure that you have complete confidence in your ability to take this program home and carry it out. And we also really want to know what your goals are for your kid, because that will really give us direction also. Our team can look at their profile and say, well, here are some things that we feel are realistic in this next 6 months. But we want to know, like, what's your long-term hope for your kid, because you don't get anywhere if you don't know where you're going, right? So goals are really important to us. And then after that, the staff meet and design the program. If you're here for your visit, then the next 2 days, you'll be coming back for sessions in the office with different members of the staff. They'll teach you the physical program, the nutrition program, the respiratory program, the cognitive program, the sensory program, and make sure that you have ample time to ask questions, to get questions answered. Now, once you go home, obviously, you have your staff coach who is your question person too. So it's not like you go home and we're not in touch, but there is a difference, if you're in person, to be able to spend that time with the staff. Things occur to you in person that, that you might not think of once you get home. So it's a very helpful thing. For families who are doing remote appointments, we schedule those sessions, those coaching sessions, at your convenience online. And again, we build in a lot of time for discovery and for questions because your situation is different, completely unique to you, and your kids' needs are unique to them. So we want you to know that we are always here to help solve problems. And our staff are dedicated problem solvers. That's one of their joys in life is finding creative solutions. So that's really, and the program that they design is meant for a 6-month period because that's the cadence of our work. But during those 6 months, when you're at home, you are, it's a living, breathing program. You're able to change things along the way. It's not like here's a static program, do this for 6 months, report back, and we'll see how we go. It's, if 6 weeks into your program, things are going really well and you're ready for the next step, the staff are going to help put that in place for you. They're not going to say, no, just keep going, keep going. We want to move forward at the best pace possible. So, we're never going to skip anything. We're never going to rush, but we're definitely going to be proactive when it comes to making adjustments. And the same thing goes in the other direction. If life happens, as it often does, and you have challenges that keep you from accomplishing the program you're hoping for, as we all do. I give the example all the time. Parent will call their staff coach and say, "Oh my gosh, we were sick for a week and a half. My mother-in-law came to visit. Then there was a birthday. Like we've done next to no program for going on 3 weeks. How do I get back on the horse?" The staff coach is there to help you do that. So, you never have to feel like you're alone. But we want you to also feel that you're moving toward independence. So our staff are always here for families. We are always here to answer questions. Obviously, Spencer is here almost every Monday to answer questions. And sometimes parents join this session who are who have done our program, who have had appointments before and are now just calling in with questions later on. They're not on the active program currently, but they've got questions, and that's wonderful. We're very happy to stay in touch with people. We're very happy to answer questions going forward. It's never like, oh, you just drop off a cliff, but we also do give you lots and lots of information and education so that gradually you won't need us. And our ideal, obviously, is that your kid graduates from our program and they really don't need us. We're always here, but we all we want to hear is, wow, she's doing spectacularly in school. Not really good for her diagnosis, but really well. Like everybody's impressed by, just what a great kid she is and how well she's doing. That these are, or he's gaining independence and we're looking at getting him job training, because that will be fantastic for his independence in his life. So these are our goals. We want our kids to be independent, and you too. So I see that I've got a question here from Derek. Hi, Derek. How are you? It's so nice to see you. So the remote consultation compared to a live consultation. There's no substitute for being live and in person. We all know this. It's one of the reasons the pandemic was so hard on everybody. All of us being separated from each other and not having that connection to be, not having the ability to be in person, was really, really rough. So yes, when you're in person, there's a difference there, just in terms of that connection. But in terms of what we actually offer and what the team will give you, there is no difference. We don't hold anything back from the remote appointment versus the live appointment. Some of the bigger differences, though, so with a live appointment, we always have a doctor with us. If you come to Philadelphia, we have our doctor here. In Italy, we have a doctor. So we always make sure when we are seeing families for live evaluations that we have a physician. The reason for that is our breathing enhancement program, which is one of our key respiratory programs that has a tremendous benefit to every area of the program, but certainly speech. Getting better oxygen to the brain is very, very important. Now, we've got ways to do that without the breathing enhancement program, but the breathing enhancement program is pretty spectacular in terms of its direction, its results, and it's very simple to carry out. So that, though, does require a doctor's approval. And that's because we are very careful. We're very conservative. We don't ever do anything that we are worried will be unsafe for our kids. Obviously, you don't want that either, parents. So we're really, really cautious. So we have to have a doctor's approval. For families who are taking a remote appointment, we provide letters that explain the purpose of the breathing enhancement program and the requirements that we have physically of the child that you can share with your doctor at home. And once your doctor at home signs off on that, then you're all clear and we can do the breathing enhancement program. Every now and then, we do have a family who, sometimes we have a kid who's contraindicated, right? So obviously that's not something we're going to do. But we also sometimes have families whose doctors say, I don't agree with this. I don't think it's a good idea for whatever reason. People have their individual opinions, and even after looking at the literature, possibly they would say no. We say always try. And our physician can also write them privately if they've got further questions. But I will say the vast majority of parents get approval from their home physician with no problem, because our literature explains it very clearly and it's a very gentle program. And so, again, unless your kid has a specific contraindication, a lot of which we already know and we can tell you, they'll generally be approved for that. So that's the difference. One of the differences between the remote appointment versus the live is that when you come for a live appointment, you'll see our physician and your child will be able to get approved by them, versus having to do things from home. But other than that, we really stand behind our remote appointments. We started giving them before the pandemic. We got really good at them during the pandemic. And the reason that we continue to offer them is we see what a benefit it is to families who really can't travel, who can't get to us. So that's it. But yeah, those are the biggest differences, really. If you can get to us, if there's any way, we really, really recommend it. It is our ideal. But if you cannot get to us, the remote appointment is a very, very good alternative. Okay, I hope that helps. Oh, hi, Virginia. Yay, you got to us. I'm so glad. I do apologize for, I think for some families, when our clocks changed 2 weeks ago here in the US, I think that it threw some people's schedules off, and I'm sorry for that. Most of the people that I know in the United States really wish that we would just stick to one time and not change, but we have not been able to come to agreement about that with our government. So yeah, it's an interesting quirk of the United States. Some other countries too, I know. But yes, we are now. This is our time, and happy to have you here. But it's great to see you, Virginia. So I'm gonna, allow a few more minutes for any questions that anybody has. Or if you have a follow-up question, Derek. Again, sorry Spencer isn't here this week. He is seeing families in India with our team there. So I do want to talk about our dates for upcoming appointments. So. Remote appointments are, scheduled consistently. Typically, what we would do is we schedule you officially for the first, like the Monday of a week, but that might be the evaluation date, and then we would schedule the other sessions with you. Again, it tends to be spread out over a week to 10 days. That's because of our clinic schedule as well as because of your schedule. So we try to be flexible. And make it suit everybody's needs. Our next appointments in Philadelphia are December 1st through the 3rd. And then these are initial appointments. We also have appointments. I believe we're doing initial appointments December 15th as well. Something to keep in mind for those of you who are new, or who have not yet come for an appointment and are considering it, we do reserve certain weeks each month for initial appointments. That's due to our doctor schedule, but also because our team wants to really allow plenty of time on those weeks to, get you feeling very comfortable, to like lots of time for questions. So we don't have initial appointments every single week. That's something to keep in mind if you're planning ahead. And I do recommend you plan ahead, because the time in between is not wasted, I promise. And it's funny, I talked to a mom a few months ago, and she was really interested in coming to our appointments in Italy. But she said, "Oh, we've got an intensive schedule that week, um, so we're not going to be able to come in October." I said, "That's fine. Of course, we'll be back in January. We'll be back in April, July, and then October again." So we did talk the other day, and she told me that they did the intensive, um, and she said, I really, she said, I'm excited, more excited for our Doman Method program now, because I think that while the intensive it was a good learning experience for us. She said, I feel that we're going to be getting a lot more sustained support from your team. And she had talked to another parent who is working with us currently, who's been coming to our campus in Italy for a couple of years now. And she said, I can just tell from what they described and what you've described that this is going to be a much more in-depth experience. So I'm really happy, because they'll be coming in January. So we have our appointments in Italy at the end of January. The last week and a half is when we'll be there. So if you're interested in seeing us in Italy, please let me know, because we only have a couple of spaces left for that visit. We have a space on the 19th of January and a space on the 22nd of January. And I think actually at the moment that is it. Now, we do often start a waiting for cancellation list. So, that's always a possibility. But if you want to be certain, then let me know immediately, that you're interested in coming to Italy. And then back to Philadelphia, we will be giving live appointments in January 5th. We have openings. And then I believe January 12th, we have openings as well. So, it's hard to believe we're already looking at 2026, but we're so close to the end of the year. Please, if I've got my information there on the screen. If you're thinking about scheduling, there's never an obligation to talk to me. I really emphasize this with families. It's a big decision, and I think that the more information you can gather, the better. So please get in touch with me. You can email me, you can message me on my phone, you can call me on my phone, or you can, and these are all my direct number and email, or you can send us messages through our social media, the Instagram, Facebook. I see all of those things. Okay. So please get in touch if you're thinking about an appointment, even sometime in the future. I can give you insight into the best ways to prepare. All right. So Virginia, I see that your son closes his ears even when there is no noise. What should I do? I am going to refer this question to the staff, but I will say that often kids with auditory hypersensitivity are responding to sounds that only they can hear, or even things that melt into the background for you and me, So, and that can be really, really hard for them, because they're constantly being disturbed by something that, like I don't notice, you don't notice the hum of the refrigerator, the sound of the electricity running through the lights, things like that. I mean, it's pretty incredible what our kids have to deal with when they have a hypersensitivity like that. So and we certainly have ways that we can help. But I am going to refer that question to the staff, and then I'm going to email you directly, okay? Because I know that you're working your way through lectures and using the books and everything. So yeah, we'll get some answers for you, okay? Thank you so much for sending the question in. I appreciate it. All right. So does anybody else have any questions? Oh, I see that our viewership has jumped up, which is fabulous. For those of you who are just joining, we are just about to wrap things up. I spent the last 50 minutes talking at length about appointments, how those work, how to get them scheduled if you're interested. And I also shared a bit about my own personal background with the Doman Method, why I feel so strongly about it, and why I really think that every parent deserves to have this knowledge and information for their child, because I'm 50 years old now, and I have been around, this has been in my life since I was very small, almost too small to remember. But I have come across many different other options and heard about them from parents, and I'm still completely convinced that the Doman Method, this viewpoint is the most comprehensive, and the one that really empowers parents the most to take charge of their own child's development. So, please let me know what questions you have, because we're here for that. Oh, Elena, hello. Okay, wonderful. Oh, you took the What to Do course. Fantastic. All right. That's excellent. So you've got all of the basis of information, and you're doing the program at home, but partially. Okay, and maybe you had a consultation that you didn't use. So, Elena, if you could share with me your contact information. If you want to send a direct message to you, well, I mean, my email is there, or you can message me on 814-232-8668. I have WhatsApp. I have, what else do I have? I'm on Botim now, because we have families in countries where Botim is more commonly used. And I think I have Signal on that phone as well, or Telegram, probably both. So yeah, please message me your contact information, Elena, and I can answer your questions more specifically. But yeah, it's okay. So it seems we're kind of neat guide. Yes, that is my phone number, 8668. Yep. 8668. So I see that you typed 814-232-8688. But it is actually 814-232-8668. Okay. So yeah, the last four numbers are a little different from what you typed. Let me see if I can put that in. 814-232-8668. There we go. All right. I hope that message gets you. Oh, look, sorry, the system is new to me. I'm not usually the host, so it's kind of cool seeing my message there go to all the platforms. Yes, definitely reach out to me. Okay. You're very welcome. Yeah. Thank you too. So everybody, it's been my great privilege to spend this time with you. Thank you so much. Please, we'll be back next week. We're just wrapping up close to 12 here in Philadelphia right now. So we're at 11 a.m. New York time, for those of you who are not in our time zone. And Spencer will be back next week. So we're looking forward to seeing all of you, continuing the conversation and getting your questions answered as we go forward into the end of 2025, which is unbelievable, but time marches on. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.